with a little story about and acknowledging who I learnt this from. It's from a lovely lady called Michelle Hunt. Now, we heard Carl before talk about Herman Miller, and Michelle actually spent a fair chunk of her time working at Herman Miller, and her role was actually to help clarify the values for Herman Miller and help them really get embedded in the culture of the organisation. And that's actually what Michelle does now since she left Herman Miller about 10 years ago. But the interesting thing about Michelle Hunt is she's of African-American descent, and in the 1950s leading into the early 1960s, when she was growing up, her family were the only African-American family on the military bases because her father was the only African-American military officer on those army bases. And those army bases happened to be in the southern states of the USA. Any ideas of what that environment might have been like for Michelle and her two brothers? It was explicitly racist. I mean, you can go to dreammakers.org and see Michelle tell the story, and she'll say, I was called a nigger many times, every day, like it was that brutal, right? And she's quite open and honest about that. And part of the process that her father did to help them deal with such a brutal environment was every day when they were brushing their teeth, the father used to stand behind them in the doorway of the bathroom, and her and her two brothers would have to brush their teeth. And once they finished, they had to look at themselves in the eye in the mirror and say 7 times in a row, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, and I'm wise. And she used to say, and I'd look in the mirror and think, and you're nuts. Looking at her father, right? And she said, for a long time this went on, and she got to about 8 years of age. It was just like this process that they did, and she really didn't pay too much attention to it. But one day, they were having the auditions for the school play. And they were having it in their basketball stadium, which was also doubling as the school theatre. And I don't know if you know American schools and the basketball courts, they've got these big steps on the sides called bleachers. So all the kids are up on the bleachers, the teachers are down on the stage, as it was, and describing roles and then asking for volunteers to come and audition. And Michelle kept putting her hand up and she didn't get asked to come down. Until finally, she's just about getting ready for the next role, and the teacher says, oh, Michelle, I've got your role. So in fact, she got picked out of the crowd. And she's all excited. She goes, mate, woohoo, I'm going to be in the school play. And she gets up and she starts making her way down the bleachers to go down to the stage. And as she's going down, the teacher shows her what her role was. And this was it. Oh, Lordy, pick a bale of cotton. Oh, Lordy, pick a bale a day. Oh, Lordy. If you don't know, cotton picking was what the slaves did. So she's the African-American girl, she gets the slave role in the play. So typecast, it's not funny. And she says, so I'm up here, as Michelle tells the story, and it's like whack, smack in the guts. And she goes, I was just devastated. But I'm only 8, right? And all this stuff's going on. And as I get down onto the stage, all of a sudden though, something kicks in. I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, and I'm wise. And she said her anger actually just sort of disappeared. And she realised, you know what, I actually sort of feel sorry for these folk, but they don't realise what they're doing. But you know what, I don't need to be here. I don't need to have other people label me and put their expectations on me. I just need to be me. And she said, I just walked out. In fact, I walked out of the school and no one stopped me. And she goes, I went home, it was like a beautiful sunny day like today. You know those little stoops they have out the front of those little army barrack things? And I sat down on this stoop and I just thought, you know what, I actually realised what's important to me is that I know what I want to be and I focus on what I want to be. I understand what freedom means and independence means, and there's some core values that my parents have been teaching me about. And I've got to do the same for other people. I've got to not go and do what's just happened to me to other people. So this whole idea of values became really clear for her. She in fact became one of the first women in the USA to actually have a senior role as a warden in a male prison, and she introduced and innovated a whole heap of new types of programs. So she's been in the prison system, she's been working for Herman Miller. Before starting her own business, she ended up as an advisor to Bill Clinton, to the US government. Just an amazing story. And the vast majority of her career has been about embedding values into the way organisations work and helping individuals and organisations get clear about their values. So this exercise is a direct steal from Michelle. I need to acknowledge her for it, okay? What I'd like you to do is on each of these post-it notes, write down what might be for you a core value. Now, if you're not sure what core values are, normally they're the things that you would fight for if you ever had to fight. So for example, if my family was under any sort of threat, I'd probably get in front and fight if I had to protect them, you know, under really dire circumstances. So more, you know, probably family is. Sometimes it can be the desire to fight is because of the opposite. So if, for example, if you see, if whenever you've seen people getting bullied, it's just something that you sort of find yourself going over and saying, hey, what's going on here? It's probably because the opposite of bullying is what you stand for. Maybe it's independence or freedom or something like that that is a core value for you. I know if I've, through double checking, discovered that someone's just outright lying to me, my body does all sorts of stuff, you know, and reacts to that. So the opposite for lying is honesty, integrity, something like that. So on each one of these 4 post-it notes, I'd just like you to write down what you might think right now is a core value for you. 1 per post-it note, please. And it only matters that you understand what you write. It doesn't matter if no one else would understand. And it doesn't matter if you need to write more than 1 word, because these are yours.